So, Lamar, tell me how you view athleticism.
Um, it's interesting, especially. I mean, it's different forms, but how I view it is guys who can, um, in the game of basketball, who can um, run, jump, and I throw hands in there because that's a huge part of. I mean, are you a guy that can go and catch it? Especially going to get passes, going above the rim, things of that nature. But are you able to move laterally quick? Using your quickness, using your speed. That's kind of how I view athleticism. And are you able to defend multiple positions, especially on the defensive end, basketball wise? Like you got guys who are not athletic, but they use their smarts. But when I'm talking about being able to defend from a guard to a forward, that's huge in the game of athleticism.
And so it sounds like balance, footwork is in
Correct.
there, right?
Yeah. I mean, you got some guys who have great footwork, but are still slow.
Still
Or
slow.
you know what I'm saying? But
Absolutely.
from an athletic standpoint, are you able to check? Like, are you able to change ends quickly? Are you able to? Because in the game of basketball, is always is up and down. It could be a turnover here, turnover there. Getting out on fast break. Those things are important when you're talking about athleticism.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's transition it then. Then how about defense then?
Are you able to move your feet? Are you able to play? Are you able to move not just laterally? I mean vertically, but are you able to move laterally? Are you able to? Do you have great hands? And a lot of times, so me being an NBA scout is a lot of times guys don't understand that your length is very important. That's why, you talk about in the NBA is +3, +4 when they talk about wingspan. You're a 6'3" guy with a 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" wingspan. That's huge, and that means are you able to get to passes that some guys can't? So when a guy has, I think of some guys when they're 6'3" with a 6'3" wingspan. A lot of times they're going to be late to things defensively. But the question is, are you able to move your feet? Are you able to defend your position? Number one, but are you also able to defend multiple positions? And if you're a big guy, can you protect the rim? Or do you just guard in space? That's another thing that's huge is being able to guard in space. A lot of guys can't guard in space, and that's important.
So for the folks who were just getting started in it, just talk about in space a little bit so they understand.
Yeah, so a lot of the game now is open. A lot of it's a lot of guys up. Back in the day, Christian, when we played, the game was played inside out, right?
Right.
And so a lot of the floor, you tried to help more on the big guy than anything else. But now the game is so wide open. It's the spacing on the floor is huge. And so you want to take away their airspace, don't allow them to drive. I mean, and because it is so much more room on the floor. And so when I'm talking about that, can you guard in space? Are you able to just stay in front? Are you able to defend? Keep your body between the basket and the ball and not allow guys to just beat you off the dribble. You don't want blow bys. So can you guard in space? Can you, even when you help, are you in great help position? And then you can help them recover to get back and guard in space.
Good stuff. Let's go to the offensive side of the house then, right? Are you more of a stats person? Are you into looking at how productive they are overall? Because it's not always about the buckets, right? There's other things, there's effectiveness that are in there. So how do you approach that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've changed a little bit. I mean, I'm an old school guy, but I've changed a lot, actually. Analytics is huge. It's a big part of the game. I've learned to not look at the game as raw data because guys can put up numbers. And I think we talked about this before. Like like you can put up numbers against certain teams and you don't know. I mean, if you're being guarded by a 5'7" guy or 5'9" guy, those things are huge. But I've kind of I can watch the game, but then I can go and watch inside the numbers. So a lot of things are
Mhm.
important to me. You talk about efficiency. You talking about like what is your offensive rating? When we talk about like that involves a lot of things from you shoot. Are you able to shoot the three? Are you able to shoot 2-point shots? Finishing it. Remember, so many different things with effect. Passing the basketball is involved in that as well. So when I look at a lot of stuff and you talk about it, I look at, when I watch a game raw, or when I'm saying live, I can look at how well do they shoot it at the rim. Because that's going to tell me if it translates or not to the higher level. Whether you're in high school, going to college, or college going to the pros, are you able to finish at the rim at a high rate?
Mhm.
Are you able to your mid-range shot? Are you a mid-range shooter or are you a three-point shooter? Are you a guy that gets to the free throw line a lot? I look at free throw rate. And I don't like a lot of times guys can average 22, 24 points, but if they're getting to the line 12, 14 times, that's a lot. And that
Yeah.
tells me I don't know how effective you are offensively or shooting the basketball. I think you get to the line a lot. Uh, that's not a translatable stat to the NBA.
Right.
Even though you look at that, like you look at their free throw rate, you look at their 2-point, what is their 3-point rate? How many attempts do they get? It could be the big guy, offensive rebounding rate. How they're finishing. So there's a lot of things that I look at from an offensive standpoint. Like I talked about, finishing at the rim, the mid-range shot, how much you're taking, the 3-point rate, like are you a catch and shoot guy or not? So like
Right.
for instance, I look at a guy who's shooting 90% of his shots are from three, and well, most of the shots are from three, and most of them are assisted. That tells me if 80-90% is assisted, he's a catch and shoot guy. But if 40% of his shots are catch and shoot, that tells me every 6 out of 10 times he's shooting it off the dribble for three. I don't know if
Right.
that's a good shot. And you don't get too many off the dribble threes in the NBA unless you Steph Curry, unless you Damian Lillard or one of those guys.
Right.
So most of the guys in the league are catch and shoot guys. And so those things trigger me when I'm watching and seeing if it's going to translate or transfer to the next level.
Nah, that's good stuff, man. I appreciate that. So you touched on a few things, and you earlier on you said passing. So I want to get into a category called ball security, right? How do you define that? Because people define it different ways. So talk to me about ball security in your eyes.
Yeah, so there's another thing that is charted. And when I'm gonna go back so people understand this a little bit. So, for instance, John Stockton is one of the all-time assist leader in the history of the basketball game, right? And you take a guy like LeBron James or Russell Westbrook, and they have some of the highest turnovers, even though they have assists, they still have a lot of turnovers. But when you look at it, John Stockton has a higher turnover rate than those guys because he played at a slower pace
Hmm.
than LeBron and Russell Westbrook did. Even though he has less turnovers, that doesn't mean he's a better passer. That mean he played at a lesser rate. So he averaged like 2+ turnovers a game, where those guys averaged three, but he played at a pace of 80 a game, and they're playing at a pace of 100. So of course
Possession.
his turnovers going to be lower because he played at a lower rate, but his turnover rate is higher because he played in a less paced game. So I look at that. I look at more of the turnover rate than I look at the number of turnovers, because I want to look at how the pace of the game is played. If you're an up and
Yeah.
down team, and you're turning the ball over, that's one thing. But if you're a slow paced team at 60, like in college basketball, and you're turning it over 2.5 times a game versus a guy who's in an 80 pace game who's turning it over three, your turnover rate is higher because you're in
Hmm.
less possessions. You talk about ball security, and guys like, college basketball guys like to, be under 10 as a team if they can, 11. That's like if you're averaging 10 turnovers a game in college basketball in a 80 possession game, that's really good. I think I talked, and I'm listening last night. I came back and I'm listening to Mick Cronin's press conference, and he talked about how they had 9 turnovers in the game last night versus Rutgers. That's really good. You're
Yeah.
giving yourself a chance to win, right? So anytime ball security, you're talking about it, the less turnovers you have, the better chance you got winning because you're going to get more shots. So that's the thing of like the importance of, having a less amount of turnovers because you want to have every opportunity you can to have a chance to score. The name of the game at the end of the day is putting the ball in the basket. Yeah, you got to defend, but you still got to be able to score.
Let me ask you. So, on the outside of it, do you look at how they catch the ball? You look at hands.
Oh, I'm huge on hands, and it's funny. And I go back to my high school days, you know, watching guys, and I do it now, and guys laugh at me. That's why I go to games an hour and a half, 2 hours before, because I'm looking at how long their arms are, how big their hands are. A guy who has small hands, a lot. That's another thing. Like you're like, man, why he not catching the ball, or why doesn't he catch it cleanly? Hey, look at his
Yeah.
hands. Do he have small hands? And if he catching it, is he catching it and putting it down because he can't catch it cleanly?
Right.
Or things like that. Or are you a guy that's a post guy who can't catch the ball on a drop off or any of those things? Yes, it has a lot to do with it. Like small hands, big hands. It's important. And are you ready? Are you focused to catch it? Is your hands away from your body? A lot
Yep.
of times guys let the ball get right on top of them and it's hitting them all in the chest or all those things, and they're not ready. So, we always talk about being shot ready on the floor. I mean, you got,
Right.
so your hands should always be extended away from your body, should be able to catch it cleanly. But a lot of that is focus. And I think a lot of times, more than anything, your hand size has a lot to do with that. And, people don't tend to talk about that. The first thing they always say is, man, you just got, you can't catch a cold. You this and that, you that. But no, they might have small hands, and that's just what it is.
That's what it is. Yeah, no doubt. And I'll ask you about passing. Do you throw passing in there? Because, I'm saying that when I look at guys, I say, is he passing? Is he making clean passes, or is he passing them into scoring position?
No, that's 100% right. Like if you watch some of the best guys who make passes, they deliver it right into the shooting pocket. They deliver it simple bounce pass to a drop over to allow guys to catch it. Are you firing the ball to a guy 10 feet, 10 feet away from you, or are you know what I'm saying? Like some
Yeah.
guys just do that, and yeah, that's passing is so important.
Agreed. Agreed. So let's get into another aspect of security: rebounding. Right. And let's talk about a whole side of it, but offensive, defensively, big guys, little guys. Like how do you look at it?
It depends on your personnel, your team, right? I mean, you might have a team with two bigs, and sometimes you would say, hey, you two guys are crashing the boards, and three are getting back, or vice versa. Or you got one big and two forwards and two guards. So it all depends. But I think rebound is a one, and I think that has to be there's things that you work on every day to box out, then go and get it. I'm watching a kid last night. He's one of the most talented kids in the country. And every time I go watch him, I probably watched him 5 or 6 times this year. I'm disappointed in him rebounding the basketball
Mm.
because in the last 3 or 4 games, he's had 2 in 1 half. He's 6'10", biggest guy on the
Oh,
floor. And somebody texted me this morning, was like, well, he ended up with 7, right? And I'm like, but 4 of them came off of missed free throws because he's the first guy on the block. So, like, you can manipulate the system and getting rebounds because you can put yourself in position, or everyone else is boxing out and then you're going to get it. So, but if you're going to be elite rebounder, and I talk about that, those are the ones who go and get it. Those are the ones who rebound outside their area. And a lot of times, rebounds just come to you sometimes, but
mhm.
can you rebound outside your area? Can you go and get it? Offensive rebound guys just have a knack for following the ball. I think that's an art. I think guys have that ability. That's innate ability to just go and like you watch the guys like Dennis Rodman and those guys, and they would keep possessions alive just because they had a innate ability of going to get the ball, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's a want to. And like listen, there's some guards like that can go and rebound from their position. Like they are just. I mean, Russell Westbrook is one of the best rebounding guards in the history of the NBA. You talk about me, Oscar Robertson. Oscar was one of those guys, right? Those guys went and got rebounds. And that's because they wanted to, or the teammate
Right.
needed them to. And you can rebound from that position because it starts to break. If you ever watch, I mean, there's a reason why Joker with Denver, Jokic goes and rebound because you know what? When he rebounds on the defensive end, he can start the fast break. He ain't
Taking
got to
off.
worry
Yeah.
about, he likes that. He likes starting the fast break. And that's what another thing is. If you can rebound from the guard position, it starts your fast break earlier. If you're a
Mhm.
big guy, like I talked about, go and get it. I'm big on rebounding outside your area. Yes, blocking out is one thing, but are you able to go and get it? And I talked about the young man who's had 2 rebounds the last few nights. He likes to hold this guy off and grab it with one hand, and then he's missing rebounds that he should get. And so, like I said, and one of the things I asked a guy last night, and I said, "Tell me this, man. Why doesn't that kid rebound?" And the number one thing he said was he's never been forced to rebound, and because
Mm.
he's always played with other really
Different.
good players who could also go and rebound. So no one told him, "Hey, man, I need you to go and rebound,"
Yeah.
and he don't do it. So there's a lot of factors that come into play on that when it comes to rebounding. But I just think you have to have the ability to want to. I think you have to have the ability to go and get it. Yeah, technique, boxing out, all that's great. But a lot of the best ones didn't box out. They went and got it, at the end of the day.
And that leads me to another one of our categories, effort and toughness,
Yeah.
right? So sounds like that plays a part
Oh,
in
it
this.
definitely does. Like you talk about effort and toughness, those are guys with winning mentalities. Those are guys who are going to do whatever it takes to win. If you need me to go get 15 rebounds, I'm going to get it. If you need me to defend the best guy, I'm going to go and get it. If you need me to score tonight, I'm going to go and get it. And I mean, I think a lot of times, that the effort, toughness, diving on the floor, loose balls, and toughness is not beating on my chest and all this. Like, are you willing to do the little things to help your team win, no matter what that is? You can mental toughness. You can be that. Like, are you locked in? Are you a guy who's willing to? I mean, my first guy I worked for in college. He used to always say, um, "Be selfish for the team." Right? That was it. He was like, I don't mind selfish guys, but I want you to
Mhm.
be selfish for the team. And he meant that like, hey man, go get that loose rebound. Go get that loose ball. Be willing to take a charge. Like those are things that the toughness that add up to guys who win. And when you do those things, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna win a lot of games and you're gonna win some championships.
Nice, nice. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is like IQ. We break it down. I break it down into 3 areas, right? We talk about court awareness, strategy, understanding the flow of the game, right, and decision making, right. So talk to me how you feel about the IQ component.
Yeah, I think sometimes IQ is thrown around too much to some guys, but I think it's when and I'm gonna look at it NBA wise, and I'll throw some guys out, and you wonder why. Like you don't have to be the fastest, you don't have to be the strongest, you don't have to be the biggest, but you see the game way ahead of everyone else. You
Hmm.
see the game like you've already played the game in your head. You know where everyone's supposed to be. The defense like the back of your hand, right? Like you you know you so when you like I look at some of the best guys in the last few years in the NBA. I'm just thinking NBA right now, so guys will understand. Like Chris Paul, unbelievable basketball IQ. I mean, he knows things will happen before, and that's why he's still able to play at 38, 39.
Right.
LeBron James at 40, basketball IQ is off the charts. I mean, he knows where you are, where you supposed to be the opposing guys. Like he knows your plays, and he knows his plays, and he's telling guys what you should be doing. Um, Same thing with Jokic. Rondo was that way. Brilliant basketball IQ. You talked about court awareness. You're talking about being able to know your opponent's strengths and weaknesses,
Hmm.
knowing your teammates' strengths and weaknesses, putting them in the best position, being understanding what the coach wants to deliver, game plan wise, and being able to articulate it to your teammates. So, man, basketball IQ is when you have guys from the neck up that's the best on the floor sometimes. It doesn't matter about how athletic a guy is. It doesn't matter, you know, we talked about how running and jumping and things of that nature, but when you have basketball IQ and you can play at your own pace, you just talked about that. Every one of those guys I talked about, they control the game at their own pace. They know when to play fast. They know when to slow it down. They know when to get a guy a shot. They know when to get themselves a shot. They know when to, they can defend in spurts.
Right.
They're not the greatest of defenders, but they know when to defend and when to get a stop when it's important. So those are the things, man. Basketball IQ it's rare. Like everyone doesn't have it. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? They think they do, but they don't. It's the elite of the elite. You can tell the difference, and as a player, we know as a person, as a coach, like as you get older, the game slows down for you, and the ability to be able to outsmart or outthink these young guys is unbelievable. So I'm watching, and then I'm throwing a college guy. So I've watched the guy a couple of times now. He's in the MEAC, right? He's 6'7", and he's not a great athlete, and we know the MEAC has a lot of athletes.
Mhm.
His ability to go out and get 25. I watched him the other day. He had 23, had 25. I think it was last night. He had 42 out of 34 out of two of the last three games. And you're saying, how is he doing it? And it's like the reason why he's doing this because he's the smartest basketball player on the court. He knows how to play the games at the angles. He knows how to use his body, but he ain't out jumping nobody. He can't. He really don't defend, but he's smart enough that I see the game better than you do, and that's huge. Um, and that can
I just gotta
separate.
say, I gotta comment on it because to me, that's what makes that's beautiful basketball when you see it though,
Correct.
right? And
Correct.
that's the stuff that it may not be on Sports Center, but if you know the game and you truly love the game and you watch this game, you see that happening like, yo, that's pretty.
Yeah, that is
That's pretty.
that's why you know watching that when you talk about um when you see that it. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like you don't. That's not like you don't come and say. And I'm throwing no shade, but like one of the best point guards in the world. But for 43, 44 minutes, he's exciting. He's great. But for the last 4 minutes, you can't trust him because you don't know what he's gonna do
What he's thinking,
at the
yeah.
end of the game. You know, um, and that's not. He's just a great athlete, very good basketball player. He competes. All the stuff works, but in the last 4 or 5 minutes, which most games come down to, whether it's college, 80% of your games come down to the last 5 minutes. Don't care how big the lead is. You go back and look at it in the history of the game. It's going to come down to the last 5 minutes, and it's
Hmm.
who can execute, who's the smartest on the floor. It's not always who's the best players. It's who can execute, who can put you in position. And a lot of times it's not the coach because it's like you make plays, whether it's offensively or defensively, and it's not always drawn up. And so the
Hmm.
same thing, you see some guys in the NBA that are great for 40 plus minutes, but like you're not trusting them the last 4 or 5 minutes on
Right.
you're just not trusting them. And
Yeah.
that's the difference between winning a championship and losing a championship. Are you able to at the last 4 or 5 minutes dissect everything and still be really good?
Nice, nice. So for the folks who are listening, who are trying to get into the space or just learning, whether they're trying to get into the sports world as young college students or even dobos and grad GAs, right? What kind of advice would you give them to look when they're trying to get into scouting? What should they be looking for?
Well, I'm gonna always say this: stay away, man. No, I love this game. I've been doing. I tell people why you want to be in it. Um, no, it's great, and I've since I was 8 years old, this is what I've done. I played it, uh, you know, collegiately. I coached at all levels, um, and now doing scouting. And I tell people like you got to create your own niche, right?
Hmm.
It's all right to follow. It's all right to um, steal. Everyone steals from someone. You like I got some guys
That's
now
learning.
that
Yeah, that's learning.
yeah, I mean that's learning. That's not anything. I mean I got guys who just getting into scouting that I talk to almost every day. They call and pick my brain. I don't know it all, and I don't pretend to know it all.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ask me something, if I don't know it, I have enough resources, and that's another. I have enough resources that I'm gonna be able to find it. You know, guys
Right.
like, man, you find this stuff quickly. You do this quick. You know, you already, and is that at your disposal? And I'm like, man, Google is my friend for real. Like, you know what I'm saying? You throw out a name to me, man. You ever seen such and such? You ever blah blah? And I Google it. I pull it up. I've got the stats. I got everything right there,
Mm-hmm.
right then and there. But you know, being resourceful, being knowledgeable, being um, being able to network. Those are the things, you know, when you talk about getting into it, because you're gonna need to lean on people, but you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna also have to create your own identity. You know, don't you know? I got into it thinking one thing. I remember the first time Christian and I got into scouting, and I was a role. I mean, I'm talking about this is 2019. I've always experienced, you know, looking at the game, looking at the raw data, saying, "Man, what is this?" And then I'm at a game near scouts, because one thing about NBA scouts, they don't talk about. Everybody knows who we're looking at, right?
Right. Right.
No one talks about who we're looking at. No one
Right.
like, dude, it's no edge. We all know what we're doing. But the first time I'm listening, and I heard some guys saying stuff like, "Well, his shooting percent is this," or they was throwing out terms, and I'm like, what is that? And I had to go, but I went back and I started searching this stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay, offensive rating or true shooting percentage, or effective field goal percentage. Like, I'm listening, I'm like, okay. And I kind of self-taught myself, like, by listening.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you kind of have to do, like, because I didn't want anyone in this profession saying, man, this dude don't know anything, right?
Right.
So I self-taught and then I started watching. This is the same thing I did when I got into college coaching. I admired people. I watched them from afar. This is what they were doing. So I was like, well, they've been successful doing it, so I should be doing it, right? So I say all those things is, and I said it again, man, don't be afraid to steal or borrow or take or whatever you want to from anybody. Make sure you networking all the time. Make sure you be able to, you can get the resources. Um, Make sure you are always evolving. So with me, I not only do I go and watch college games, or I'm watching high school kids, but I'm also watching twice a month. I go to G League games, right? Because uh, those guys could potentially be pulled up. I'm always learning. The NBA is always changing. I'm watching games every night. Like, when I get back from somewhere, or I might wake up the next day, I'm always watching. So I'm always learning, because
Mm-hmm.
the game is always evolving. That's what you have to keep working on. I say that to these guys is you got to keep working on your craft. Like, I love this. I love going to a G League game and watching guys and saying, you know what? There's a lot of really good players in the G League. The
Yeah.
problem is so we always talk about today's game versus the game 30, 40 years ago in the 80s and 90s. The difference now is almost every guy can pass, dribble, and shoot, right? Back then, centers were not dribbling.
They weren't
You
even
know what I'm
allowed,
saying?
right?
You know what I'm saying? Like, and everything was, the offense was, and I say this, and I'm not saying one is better than the other,
Sure.
but it was control. Everything was controlled by the coach.
Mm-hmm.
As good as Mark Jackson was, or I mean, any of these point guards, coach was running plays all the time, floppy action, pin downs, all this stuff. Like, if you watch in college basketball, Mike is doing what they were doing in the 80s and 90s, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's why the game has changed. Where you look at Alabama, who like spaces the floor. Like, you look at some of those teams that you wonder why they score so much. Even like North Carolina's gone away from playing two bigs together. They don't have it anymore. So the game
Right.
has kind of changed. And so you have to be able to adapt. Another word I'm using. But like I said, things is resourceful, networking, being able to adapt, being able to evolve. being able to study, stay on top of your craft. Those are the things I add if you want to get in the scout. It's great because, and I think we talked about this last time when we talked, there's a big difference in recruiting and evaluating. I
Yep.
always, so I never realized that, and I'll say that being able to evaluate, I believe, is another art. Everyone can't evaluate. They can't. Most guys can, because recruiting is being able, it's almost like a used car salesman, being able to, recruit, being able to deliver the sales pitch, and then try to get the kid to come. But going to watch somebody and being able to say what they can and can't do, or in my case, being able to predict, with being able to predict what a person can do long time. Like that's why I tell people I don't judge kids at 19. I judge them at 22 because trust the guys I'm dealing with who's going one and done and things of that nature.
Right.
I see a guy in college because by the time they're 22, 23 years old, whether they are a senior in college or they're in the NBA, their game is what most likely is. So that's why people don't understand, well, why does the NBA like drafting young? Because you can take a 18, 19-year-old and you can start to mold them.
Mold that, yeah.
Right? But you take a 22-year-old, it's kind of hard to get out of there. Like they've been doing this, a little bit longer. Role is different. Now, you have some guys that can adjust to it, but everyone can't. And so that's why I always say that, man, because when I look at it, college coaches look at it, Christian, they look in short-term window. What a kid can be for them in 4 years, right? I look at it in what a kid can be for me at 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years. What can they do? That's what I'm looking at. Whereas college coaches are looking at that short-term window. I'm looking at long-term. So,
No, that's great information for those folks because that frames how you're going depending on who you're evaluating, and at what point that frames it for them. So that's good stuff.
Because if you're 19 and I'm looking at your body, I'm like, yo, he's not a man. He's a boy. He's not a man. But when you look at it and you're in a weight program and this and that, and by the time you're 22, 23 years old, you're like, okay. Like, I mean, I want people to look at Jason Tatum from the time he came in from Duke at 19 to when he was 22, 23 years old, right? I mean, that changes quickly.
Yeah.
LeBron James at 18 when he came into the league, same thing with Kobe. By the time they're 21, 22 years old, like their body has changed. They become a man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how, like, can I envision that part? Same way in recruiting, I used to tell people, and I'll end with this. When I was recruiting in college basketball, I always wanted a kid who had a chance to be on the all-rookie team or rookie of the year. Can he be an all-league player as a sophomore and a junior, or sophomore or junior? And can he be player of the year as a junior and a senior? And if I can get those guys, recruit those guys, that's called evaluation. Can you look at that guy and see if he can be that guy? That's not recruiting. I'm looking at a guy who I think can be good, and if he's on the all-rookie team or rookie of the year, and he got a chance to be all-league young, he got a chance to be player of the year young, that means we're going to be good because he's that good. So that's the way I used to look at recruiting. But I now go back and look at it. I was evaluating more. Like, could this kid? And I was thinking more long term and wasn't thinking short term.
Right.
And can that kid be a pro? That was the other thing you throwing in there. So, yeah.
Good stuff. Lamar, appreciate it, man. Great information for these folks. Appreciate you on all that, man.